I just need to, generally what I need is to kind of get out of my own head. What I would need if I were gonna be uh like running a full-time campaign is I would need like a co-writer. Or the patience or anything other than a player. I prefer to be the DM rather than the player, to be honest. Um, I actually find it to be more fun. Although I do like playing. As a DM, I get to be in control of. Well, I get to be in control of all of the stuff. Like I get to tell the story I want to tell, and also I get to at the same time help other people tell the stories they want to tell. Um, Whereas, you know, as a player, you come with a sort of an idea for the story that you want to tell, and then it's up to, you know, the DM or other people around you to try and help make that happen. But as a DM, like, you know, I get to simultaneously help you tell the story you want and also get the story that I want to tell told. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be up here. It's just not. I'm having difficulty with some of these resource spawns. It's also just really fun seeing a large-scale plan come together. Like, it's really nice to, like, pepper in an idea and then, like, 6 months down the road, see that idea come to fruition. Like, that's super fun. I like it so much that I didn't even let it get... I didn't even let the rules of, adventure, what's it called? I haven't done it in like 5 years, like 4 years now. Just before the pandemic, at least, so at least 2 or 3 years. The official D&D play, I can't remember what it's called. Adventures League? Is that what it's called? Anyway, I didn't. Yeah, Adventures League. That's what it's called. I didn't let the rules of that stop me when I had a Adventures League, when I had a series of players who I had consistently at the table. And because we were consistently at the table and I didn't have to worry about, like, explaining to new people that we were doing something a little bit different, I actually got to play a little bit at taking, like, what was a standard adventure and kind of building my own stuff onto it. And it was really fun. I played with a lot of my characters' choices and rolled them into the storyline and made a whole sub thing that was entirely mine. It was a lot of fun. I struggled with as a player. I want to make sure my backstory... I mean, yes and no. But it's really good if your backstory fits with the world the DM wants to develop. It's more that, I think, for me, a good player, a really good character, doesn't necessarily start with a story to tell. Is, I think, what's important to me. Now, that's not necessarily true, and different DMs are going to think differently than me. I think that, you know, a character they should have a goal, right? But that goal shouldn't necessarily come with a full narrative arc, right? That's the DM's job, right? Your character can have a goal. Your character can have a set of skills they already have. Obviously, every character comes with a set of skills they already have in a history, right? That history... it could just end there, and I think that's always very good when it just ends there. But a character can also have a specific goal, right? And that's obviously important. But it shouldn't come with a full narrative arc. Really, what if the goal has no basis in the world the DM is developed? Well, that's the job of your session 0, right?
Until we meet again.
The job and goal of your session 0 is to make sure that that is true, and you as the player and the DM both have to accept, like, you know, it's worth taking time as a DM to build the world with your players one-on-one. I think this is where your experience in AL has actually hurt you. I think that is very possible. I think AL does as much damage as it does good in some cases. AL can be great, can also be a significant problem. We didn't play consistent storylines, only individual. Yeah, that's what AL usually does. That's usually how AL works. The thing is, I got incredibly lucky. I sat down with a group of people, and those same, like, 6 people came back every week with only minor variations. And so, like, after about, 4 months of this, the same people making consistent character choices and me getting to know them as people, I was like, hell yeah, we can do other cool things. We can do stuff that's more interesting than this. Because I did a lot of individual modules for a while before we settled on a game to play, because we didn't settle in on an actual storyline for quite a while. I was running just individual stuff for a long time. I pulled a lot of the like Into the Abyss individual modules, and I played a ton of those back to back. I tried to run the ones like in order, but there isn't necessarily a consistent order for those and stuff like that. So there's, you know, only so much you can do. But yeah, once I figured out that, you know, we had a consistent group and we decided we really wanted to play the whatever the 5e campaign is with the giants. I can never remember what it's called. You know, we really sat in and played it like it was a regular D&D campaign. It was a lot of fun. Session zeros are very important. It's incredibly important to sit down and say like, and because it's not just like, hey, here's like the world, make sure that your character works with it. It's also like, hey, here are some of the themes that I want to touch on, right? I want to, you know, tell a story that involves significant sacrifice. You know, be prepared that your characters may be asked to give of themselves more than you expect. Something like that, or you know, and as a player, it's your chance to step up on stuff like that, you know, like, you know, I have a history with such and such triggering topic. I don't want this to come up. I have a history with such and such, you know, kinds of themes and storytelling. I don't want that to come up. That's an important place for you as a player to say that. You've only had 2 session zeros, and one of those campaigns you're still playing. Nice. Yeah, session zeros are great. They allow you to establish a lot of things, and as a DM, they allow me to establish a lot of certain things. Like, a lot of players really like to, because players are so damn genre savvy these days that they, you know, like if I'm going to play a game, if I'm going to try and introduce horror elements, I might specifically stop in and say like, hey, I want to play a game with some horror elements, you know, as much as possible, like, you know, feel free to make your characters non-genre savvy in order to, you know, facilitate certain things that, you know, because like, you know, if a character in a horror movie just didn't go into the basement, if they just like went out and went to the police, or, you know, to use the generic example, there would be no story, right? There'd be no movie. And so a lot of times you have what the hell? A lot of time you have players who want to do the like D&D equivalent of not go into the basement. And I'm like, you know, like sometimes you just have to acknowledge that sort of, sometimes you just have to acknowledge those sorts of things and say like, hey, I think it's just more fun if you guys just sort of take the bait sometimes, because it facilitates me telling a story. To avoid metagaming. It's not even just metagaming, it's just like, it's just genre savviness, right? Like, everybody knows in a dungeon crawler, right? Like if we're doing a traditional ass dungeon crawl, then you should take you should take a 20-foot pole into the dungeon and poke every little tile as you walk down the road, right? As you walk down each and every hallway, right? That's like just the objectively correct way. That's like an objectively correct option. But like, that's something that like only because of the way that traps work in these sort of TTRPGs, that makes sense, right? Somebody with the goal of like exploring a place that's not been seen by, you know, people on the surface for hundreds of years is probably more focused on, you know, other things, their own resources, their own yada yada yada, you know, they're, you know, unless they are like a super professional, I don't really know where I was going with that tangent, but the point is that it's really important to, if you're going to start playing a game of like D&D, sit down and have a session 0, because session 0s are where you can hash out all of these like conceptual thoughts about, you know, about playing the game in general, right? Do you want a character, you know, a table that like argues over minutia and does things like, you know, try and keep track of every single arrow fired by every NPC, and, you know, keep track of things like carry weight in non-trivial situations and stuff like that? Or do you not want to do something like that? Do you just want to hand wave a lot of it? And that's, yeah, those are all things that are worth talking about, because different people are going to have different answers to those questions. The place that I used to play, like Adventures League and all that stuff, is actually so far away from me. It was actually like almost an hour drive, which was kind of fun because I actually worked in that area. I had an almost hour drive to work at that time, and it was actually right next to where I worked. So, like, I mean, I like to think that I'm a pretty good DM, but DMing is tough, and I don't think there's such a thing as a strictly good DM, right? I mean, even like people say, like, here's the thing, right? Here's the general discourse around like Matthew Mercer and Critical Role, right? Is that there's it's an unfair and unreasonable explanation or showcase of what D&D can be, because these are professionals, they're all getting paid significant amounts of money to do this. Matt Mercer is Matt Mercer, but even Matt Mercer makes mistakes, right? Even Matt Mercer screws up and does things that make the table environment weird for small chunks of time. He just happens to have really professional players who know for a fact that once the cameras go off, they can say, you know, hey, what was going on there? And then, so, but even the Matt Mercer makes mistakes on occasion. So like, I don't think there's a such thing as a strictly good DM, right? DMs can be good or bad. They can make mistakes. They can not make DMs can make good decisions or not good decisions. They can have good nights and bad nights. They can have things that you agree with and things that you don't agree with. It just depends on how, like, really the big thing is just their willingness to have a communication, right? If they just want to be like an iron fist ruler at the table, that's the only real problem, right? If they're willing to take things on, then even a DM that believes something completely different than you and has completely different ideas about what the game should be might produce a fun game. And so, yeah, I firmly don't believe that there's such a thing as a good DM or bad DM, and that every DM has their day. As a DM, I have a bad tendency to try and introduce concepts on top of the game we're already playing. Like, I try and create cool, like, interesting mechanics, and they don't always work out well. That's a thing I have a tendency to do, is to, like, not be confident in my own, like, stories in the game that I'm playing, in the game that I'm, like, that I'm running, and keep trying to, like, add stuff on top of it to make it shiny and different, unique. And no DM needs to do that, and I think in particular I don't need to do that, but it is something that I am, like, that is, like, inherent to my dumb brain. That I want to do, and also, like, in the middle of a session, I am very likely to, like, just suddenly be not confident in what I've already planned, and be like, have to come up with something new in the moment, and I will just, like, I'll just get a shock of inspiration. And, like, if I'm writing, like, if I'm on my own and I'm sitting there and I'm writing and I'm working on the session beforehand, then having that spark of inspiration lets me do things like, it lets me do things like, you know, craft that, try and figure out how it's going to hook into other things, and that's the right time to get it. But every so often I will, and in fact I don't even say every so often, like regularly, I will get a sudden flash spark of inspiration in the middle of the game, and then not have any time to do any of the refining steps, not have any of the time to do any of the craft on it. I just have to just do it. And I'm a pretty good improvisationalist, but some of the things that I improv in the moment and come up with in the moment don't work with the other things that I'm working with. Like it basically, you know, now that I've said it and that's canon, it like directly, like something else is now incorrect and something else is wrong, or another thing that I actually spent time working on I now can't do. So that's I think my problem as a DM, is that especially in the moment while I'm playing the game, I become suddenly very much not confident in the game that I'm running.
For now.
And I have to pull a fast one, and I have to throw a curveball, even to myself.
Of course, hero. We will find time.
You need to write down those instructions, implementing them right away. I mean, yeah, but like, it's not. But that's not the source of the problem. The source of the problem is that like I said, I get I get unsure of what I'm already doing, and I feel like I need to add more. Right? Like, if I was confident in what I was producing, then I wouldn't suddenly feel like I have to throw a curveball, and instead I can I would take those sort of thoughts, and they would either go away or I'd write them down. You know, the really good ones would stick with me, and I would just, you know, and there we go. Now we're doing it. And you know, I finished typing that now I finished. Sorry, I read your message and now my brain's I got scrambled. You know, I really, you know, because what would happen, right, is that I get all these sparks of inspiration, and by the end of the session, right, you know, 3 hours in or 4 hours in, however long we go, you know, at the end of the session, the ones that I remember at the end of the session were probably the good ones, or the ones that should be implemented, or the ones that, you know, maybe 2 days later, when I'm actually, you know, have a chance to sit down and start crafting next week's session, or next month's session, or whatever, the ones that I remember at that point are the good ones. Those are the ones that bear focusing on. So I think one of the things that I need, if I were to do DMing again, I would need a co-writer. I do think that would make things different. So first of all, it would, as always with me and collaborative things, it would force me to like conform to a schedule and to like commit time, because just getting me to commit time to things is my own personal hell. Just trying to convince myself that I need to commit time to things is very difficult for me. Prime with future to stop the
be mindful of which threads you
so it would force me to commit to sort of a timing on things, and to actually make this happen. Secondly, it would help me get more done in a period of time, right? Two minds working on the same thing. I'm always the best when I'm bouncing ideas off of people. The more I can open my mouth and talk and just get even just basic responses and replies helps me get where I'm going, right? And helps me get more done. And then the third thing is that it would make me more confident, right? Because ideally, I will have already, you know, me and this co-writer will have like agreed that this thing is cool, and we will bounce it off each other, and I already know that one other person thinks that it's cool, right? Or that one other person thinks that it works, or one other person thinks that it makes sense, right? And I've already bounced it off of a person once, so like me bouncing it off of my players, you know, isn't so much me coming up with it. It isn't so much me doing it the first time, I'm doing it the second time, right? And as a result, I would feel more confident, excuse me, I would feel more confident that what I'm saying makes sense and that it's cool and that it's interesting. So that's why I really think those 3 points collectively are why I think, you know, if I were ever going to commit to DMing again, I would want a co-writer. What's left is yes, this is elements, keep protection, keep ourselves safe. Collect elemental overflow. It's me. I just gave myself a quest.